Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is David. So, David, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do for a living.
Sure. Thanks for having me on. My name is David Delcourt. I am the Chief of Flavor and founder of Seed Ranch Flavor and GrownAs Foods. We're a natural CPG company based out of Boulder, Colorado. So we make incredibly delicious vegan mac and cheese and delightful hot sauces.
Awesome. So, how did you get the idea to start this company?
Back in 2016, I took peppers off of the porch. My co-founder was growing those. We both love spicy foods, but I always wanted to take other people's sauces, mix them to make the one that I couldn't find on the grocery shelves. So we finally got together, made 3 of them for Christmas presents and holiday presents for friends in 2016, and they immediately turned around and were like, "Well, where can we buy this now?" So that was the inception point. I've always loved food. I've always loved being in the kitchen. That's kind of in my bones, if you will. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 22, 23 years old. So what I knew from kind of my past experience, learned a lot about CPG, went to the farmer's market in 2017. That's where it all really started, Jan 1, and then local grocery, and just grew it from there.
Right. So, in terms of, you said that you've been an entrepreneur for a long time. So, what other companies did you have? And I guess, like, how did you make the pivot from that to what you're doing today?
So my first company was in the 5th grade. I was buying bulk blow pops from the store for, call it 12 to 15 cents a piece, and then reselling them for, 25 to 50 cents a piece. And that kind of has stuck with me, right? So I started a energy and sustainability platform called MakeMeSustainable.com, which ran from 2007 to 11. We sold that. Then I ran a consumer electronics business called Siva Cycle, then became Siva Energy, and then started Seed Ranch in 2016. So there's been the method to the madness has really been around sustainability and around kind of good business by doing good, if you will. And so coming into CPG, into the food world, I knew, hey, I want this to be from natural ingredients people can trust, local ingredients where possible, recyclable packaging, compostable packaging, things like that. But of course, first and foremost, flavor, right? If it doesn't taste great, go in the supplement section or something. But it's got to taste phenomenal if you're going to make food and people are going to buy it and then buy it again.
So, as of right now, for your current company, for GrownAs, where can people find you? Are you mostly D2C? Are you selling in stores? Like, where's most of your customer base currently located?
Our biggest retail partner nationally is going to be Sprouts. So mainly the kind of Sunbelt, southern United States. We are rolling out with the Fresh Market on the East Coast, King Soopers and Safeway through the Colorado region. Then in SoCal, we've got Gelson's, Lassen's, Bristol Farms, a whole set of products. And then Pac Northwest, we are in with New Seasons Market, and a few others that I'm forgetting. But also on Amazon, you gotta shake Jeff Bezos' hand these days, and D2C through our own website, of course, through GrownAsFoods.com and SeedRanchFlavor.com.
Makes sense. So, in terms of when you're selling again these retail partners, like what have you done to really stand out? Because obviously, retail can be challenging when somebody's going to a store and they're like, "How do I know which one to pick out?" So, in terms of packaging, like what do you do to kind of make things look appealing to potential customers?
Well, you hit it on the head there with packaging, because in the retail environment, there are 2 ways to get people to pick up your product. One, you promo and you discount and you coupon until they recognize your brand name and become repeat customers, or you make it enticing on the shelf. When we were developing the brand, we looked at people like Liquid Death and Bitch and Sauce, those types of companies that just you want to pick it up even if you don't know what it is, because it's either so outlandish or funny or different. All right, so packaging is a big one. The other piece is what's in the box, which is definitely important to some set of your customers. Maybe it's most of them, maybe it's some of them, but the fact that it is plant-based, so you're lactose intolerant and plant-based eaters have it, can eat it. The natural side of things, the fact that we are clean ingredient, and when someone does pick up the box and looks at it, they can be surprised in the best way that, hey, I know what these ingredients are. It's not acetaldehyde, potassium sorbate, something or other, right? That looks like it's made in a lab and not in a kitchen. And then the last piece I'd say is I read this stat the other day, and it makes complete sense. Right? Most buyers in the grocery store, they'll probably have about 5 or 6 brands that make up about 80% of the revenue. So think about all the different products that are on, just choose an aisle in the grocery store. Think, there's probably one buyer for every aisle, more or less. I'm simplifying, but if they already have 5 or 6 brands that are doing 80% of their revenue, the rest of the 20% is shared amongst all the brands like mine and other small startups or smaller food companies. We're vying for shelf space and for something that customers maybe weren't looking for 6 months ago and are looking for today, or for something, as in the case of our product, where, hey, this has got high protein, it's better for you, it tastes great, so we're the upgraded version of an old classic. And so it's all about positioning that into, hey, here are our customers, this is who we are, and this is who's looking for us. And as a result of that, we're gonna win on shelf because we're gonna support, and we're also gonna drive people to your store. And our box is gonna be like a cereal box in the pasta set. It's exciting, it's different, it catches people's eyes, and that's gonna get someone to grab it off the shelf. Because in 3 seconds, that's all you've got. 3 seconds goes by really quick. You want them to notice it and grab it.
That's awesome. I love how you're really thinking outside the box. So what would you say is the biggest challenge you're facing in the business right now?
Challenges are just a dime a dozen these days, there's a few constants in CPG and in food. One is always going to be cash flow. You're looking at many retail partners where you have to do things like free fill, where you're giving them a free case, a new item placement that they can then sell, never have to pay you for, and you're still being charged back at the distributor price. So cash flow is always going to be up there. And the same thing with production. Production could be, you might have very high MOQs, minimum order quantities. Well, if you have to produce 100,000 units, but you really only have 20,000 of them sold, then you're sitting on a lot on your balance sheet. I would say the biggest challenge is time for me personally. There's only so many hours in a day, and we all have our various tools to be more efficient, whether it be your AI chatbot friends, whether it be more humans on your team, obviously, but you gotta pay for those overhead. But finding time to not just do the daily, but also step into that role as CEO, as chief of flavor, as kind of chief visionary, to say, well, where are we going to be in the next 2 to 3 years? What is that big picture goal? And keeping ourselves accountable to those key metrics that will, at the end of the day, make the business successful, whatever that looks like, whether that's a long-term lifestyle business, whether that's an acquisition-oriented business. There's all kinds of different ways that I think leaders look at that, but time and money, that's what it comes down to every time, right? It takes twice as long and it's twice as expensive.
Right. So in terms of cash flow, like what is your average monthly revenue now, and like what is your goal that you really want to get to?
So for people who are interested, we are in the midst. We've just quietly launched a Republic campaign, crowdfunding equity campaign. So it's over on Republic, GrownAs Foods. Cedar Ranch Flavor. I encourage anyone to go and check that out. That's got everything in terms of revenue, in terms of our omni-channel approach, really a deep dive into the business. And so my shameless plug is go check that out. And that's where all the information is going to be. You know, we're still a relatively small company in the grand scheme of things, but yeah, I think it's something like 95% of companies started in the US won't make it to $1 million in revenue. It's pretty stark, right? So we're growing on that front, and that's a blend of the two companies, right? It's one LLC, but I think the revenue question comes back down also to the vision question of where are we going, how are we growing. Sauce has always been a slow but steady section of kind of our revenue, but also of your cabinet, right? If you talk about your food share in Dan's cabinet, it's okay. You probably have a few bottles of sauce that have been in there for a really long time. If you're like me and you absolutely love hot sauce and you put it on everything, it still takes me maybe a week to go through a bottle of my favorite sauce. Whereas with mac and cheese for GrownAs Foods, you buy a box, you cook a box, you eat a box, you buy a box. So getting into those velocities and pushing that along. And for us, the equity crowdfund, I think, is about getting the financing we need to keep growing the company at the pace we are, and even more importantly, building a community of other like-minded investors and partners that understand the value, right? That we build a community that can help us to grow and we can help them to grow too.
That makes sense. So like you mentioned earlier, we're talking about saving time, with AI. So in terms of like an AI chatbot, is that something that you're looking at implementing on your website, or you have implemented right now with your social media handles? Like, what does that look like for you?
What I have found great use of AI tools for is to make me and my team more efficient rather than to necessarily replace a human being. We make food at the end of the day. So AI is a long way away from replacing our manufacturers who physically make the product or replacing the physical product. We're not Star Trek yet. You can't just press the button and it materializes food out of nowhere. But everything from, prompting emails, brainstorms, you name it. Most of my emails I still write, right? But I will throw emails into ChatGPT and ask them, can you spell check this? Can we bring some more energy? And have that conversation. Same thing, a lot of the tools we use already, say Canva for quick designing things, right? Or Shopify for our web store, or there's all these Amazon tools now that have AI integrated into it already. And my view is in the next 12 to 18 to 24 months, like AI will be in everything, right? It's already feeling like that, but really there'll be some element of it, but that leaves an arbitrage opportunity, an amount of time where I can be more efficient, my team can be more efficient, we can do more with less, using those AI tools, whether it be for the textual brainstorming data. It's amazing for cleaning data and getting data done, but also visually. They just launched ChatGPT 4 with DALL-E integrated. So you imagine, Dan, you're thinking, okay, well, here's an idea for a newsletter. I'd really like an image of David in his GrownAs Foods tracksuit riding a macaroni noodle like down the train tracks, and you put it in there, and right from ChatGPT it'll develop that out. And I've played with it a little bit. It's really getting scary, which I think means it's getting good. So
No, that's cool. Yeah, I think AI, I mean, to your point, right? It has lots of use cases, but it's important to keep in mind that personal touch, right? Because as you said, people are buying from people, and oftentimes, as you sort of alluded to, that people buy from you because they know the story, and it's not just because the brand, because you're a big part of the brand. So, in terms of actually when it comes to making the product, like what does that look like for you? Because I think even from day one, right, to find this formula to make this product, I think a lot of people just struggle with this because it's like it's a very high level product that's healthy, it's vegan, it has all these So what does that look like for you to actually make this product?
So with our company, my title is Chief of Flavor, and that's beyond a witty name. It really means everything starts in my kitchen. So from ingredients that I touch, feel, taste, from our sauces to our mac and cheese, it always did. So GrownAs Foods was born during the pandemic when I was stuck at home with my two boys. They're with me half the time, and so there was a lot of mac and cheese being made. We're trying to run a business and help them with their homework and all the things that we all lived through during the pandemic. And I've been plant-based for 7 years. I wanted to feed them healthy food that I could believe in, and there was no vegan option on the shelf that I wanted to eat, much less they wanted to eat, or I felt like I should feed them. From a nutritional standpoint, there's a lot of chemically stuff. So I worked literally with my 12 and 8-year-old, well, now 12 and 8 at the time, I don't know, 11 and 7 or whatever it is. And we came up with a recipe that they started preferring to the regular mac and cheese I'd been making them before, because they're not plant-based. They still love cheese on their pizza, and I'm like, all right, well, if you guys will eat this, then other people eat this. Then their friends started eating it. Like, okay, well, they're not at all plant-based. They're not lactose intolerant. Actually, some of them are, ironically, but it was about, this is a food product that is going from my kitchen, from my stovetop to your cabinet without any compromises along the way. And then from a process standpoint, sure, you talk about my kitchen to the sample kitchen with our manufacturers to big production runs, and those mechanics look different for every company. Some self-manufacture, some co-pack, but the core to me is remembering that it starts in someone's kitchen and not in some big lab.
Right. No, that's awesome. So if we're going to have this conversation again in 1 year from now, where do you see things going for the business?
Great question. First and foremost, I think we continue to push into retail, where we've been seeing some really great successes. We're rolling out to the fresh market, like I said, this month. We're in Sprouts National. The GrownAs brand has really acted as a bit of a tractor beam for the Seed Ranch brand with buyers. So it's GrownAs is the fun, exciting Mac Man on the shelf. These sauces are really pretty spectacular, right? So we've continued to see growth on both sides of the brands. We continue to see D2C and Amazon growth. The pandemic was really a peak, and then we hit a new normal, and now we're kind of starting to grow back up. We're also going to be launching in 2024 a new product line under the GrownAs brand that will be in that one-to-one kind of cheese replacement, better for you, better for planet, better for your kids type of product. And then finally, food service. So we're rolling. We really got our food service program started this year, and we anticipate next year starting to be pushing hard into the colleges and universities and healthcare system, those kinds of markets, where there's a real need and there's a real gap between what people want and what they have available right now.
Yeah, I think, part of the thing for you probably just brand awareness, right? I mean, it's always a big challenge for any brand. 'Cause I think it's like if people just don't have the information, and once they find out that you exist and they can have like a product that's not only good for you, but actually tastes good. I mean, that's a very hard combination to find these days. Because to your point, you have many products that are being pushed out as quote unquote healthy and taste good, but they're not good for you. Then you have products that are good for you, but don't taste good. So if you have that combination, that's a huge winner right there.
Yeah. I just read an article a friend sent me about people selling off their CPG stocks because of Ozempic, the diet drug, and it made me a little sad and also made me laugh because it was one article, and heck, any eyeballs are good eyeballs for an article, right? But I don't see a weight loss drug ever hitting the level of kind of pleasure and basic human appreciation for food. I mean, there's no more universally accepted way of starting a day, ending a day, catching up with friends, family, doing business, any of any of these, right, community kind of activities than sitting together around a table and having a meal together. No one's going to sit around a table and pop a diet pill and be like, "That was great. Let's hang out more."
Right, especially these new products, when it comes to diet pills, like it's like you don't know what's in it. People are, who knows, right? I mean, all these fads, like many of them are temporary. So, what would you say is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew before starting this brand?
Before starting this brand, I think the biggest piece of advice I would give myself in 2017 is focus early, build a community at a very local level, become a big fish in a small pond before doing anything else, right? And build that network of fans, not customers, that will help to drive the business forward. And this, thankfully, in CPG, and at least in natural CPG, I'm surrounded by a bunch of other really incredible founders, other people who I can turn to for advice. And I do frequently through LinkedIn, in person, the Naturally Network. There's all these different places to turn where, sure, I might be technically competing with another local brand in some way, but at the end of the day, the shelf space, back to the 5 companies that make up 80% of a buyer's revenue. It's like we're competing on the sauce side with the Tapatios and the Cholulas of the world, right? We're competing with Kraft and Annie's on the mac and cheese side. So build that community and fans, and surround yourself, with good advisors, good network that can help you push it forward.
That's really good advice. Yeah, I mean, I think, kind of what we spoke about earlier is that people are really buying from people. And additionally, it's something that, like when it comes to advisors and mentors, right? It's like people that have been there before and done that. It's like it's important to listen to those people. And especially like, for us too, we're also a startup. And it's like I've had to learn a lot, and so that's really important to listen to these people who are experienced and have been through these things. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out to you, do you mind sharing your website or the best way to get in contact with you?
100%. GrownAsFoods.com, SeedRanchFlavor.com. I'm active on LinkedIn, and love to connect with folks through there. And then check out our Republic campaign. That's probably the biggest source of education and information that I've ever put out in terms of content. We're certainly active on other social platforms, but less so for me personally than on LinkedIn. So, yep.
Well, David, we're rooting for you, and thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was great hanging out, Dan.
Thanks. All right. Bye.